Welcome back to my channel, Famous and Fabulous. To the outdoor global kamikaze, Chris turned into a fearless driving force, a pressure to be reckoned with. At the streets, his will to win, regarded unstoppable, but street racing is not pretty much pace. It is a high-stakes game in which even the excellent cannot outrun fate forever. Just whilst it appeared like Chris had solidified his legacy, catastrophe struck, turning his world upside down in an immediate. So what truly took place, and wherein does he pass from here? This is the heartbreaking tale of Kamikaze, Chris, and the tragedy that changed the whole thing. Chris, the man behind that menacing flat black El Camino on Avenue Outlaws, isn't always the kind of man most could peg as a Avenue racing powerhouse by way of all bills he wasn't presupposed to make it. However, time and time again, he shatters expectancies. And right, here's the aspect: it become by no means part of some grand plan. Life simply took him down this avenue and he ran with it, because for Chris, being the underdog is all he has ever recognized. Developing up in a working class home in a difficult part of Oklahoma City, Chris did not have much in his personal phrases. His circle of relatives wasn't just suffering, they'd been flat out broke now. Not the tight on money sort of broke, however, the kind in which and me down garments weren't just second-hand, they have been worn skinny stained and already beyond their prime. If he wanted something past the basics, that changed into on him to discern out. And for Christ, here has been best one issue well worth chasing, racing. However, now not cars, as a minimum, no longer. At first, Chris started with dirt motorcycles, and in case you ask him why, he will inform you he is no longer necessarily a vehicle man, he is a racing man. If it is were given wheels, he's going to race it. A dust motorbike, a purchasing cart, in all likelihood even a garden mower. If you positioned one in the front of him by the time he was 3, he become already on a bike, and he never seemed again. Whilst most kids his age had been playing in the park, he was operating every abnormal activity he ought to locate just to keep his bike walking twice a week. He lined up at the starting gate racing in opposition to riders almost twice his age, but that failed to segment him. He had a starvation to win, a love for speed, and a peace ethic that set him aside. That painting's ethic, he got it from his dad, a hit drag boot racer with one simple rule: you ruin it, you restore it. Chris took that to heart. He mowed lawns, chopped trees, pumped gas, whatever, toe scrape. Collectively, the cash for his next ride from a BMX motorcycle to his first dirt bike, every improve was earned, and as soon Ash got a taste of real competition, there turned into no stopping him. Proper round that time, he wasn't just racing, he turned into helping others get faster too, particularly whilst it got here to their motors back in high college. When Kamikaze first crossed paths with Justin Big Chief Shearer, it turned into like two puzzle portions snapping into place. Each were fiercely competitive. Each lived and breathed vehicles, and neither one ever backed down from an undertaking. In truth, it became Kamikaze who first gave Big Chief that now iconic nickname. However, their bond wasn't just constructed on pace, it changed into forged in the past due nighttime grind of Thegarage. Kamikaze wasn't just the man speak me speedy and riding faster. He become the only out in the driveway, night after night, wrenching on Large Chief's 1972 Pontiac Lemons, higher referred to as the Crow, and to them, it wasn't just an automobile. It became the muse of their friendship, the machine they built with their very own hands, one overdue night fix at a time that, fingers on experience, set Kamikaze on his very own route. First, he picked up a Chevy Love with a small block, then came a Blazer, additionally a small block, and subsequently an a-body Chevel. That Chevel, although became something else, a 71, covered in a noisy emerald green paint job that gave the look of it belonged on a base boat. It wasn't quite, however, it had mindset, and it was speedy going for walks, nines, tearing up the streets, an actual rowdy piece of machinery. However, vehicles come and pass, and the sport by no means stops. Kamikaze stayed tight with a core organization of OKC racers who weren't just out there to cruise. They have been out to dominate. Lots of guys showed up just to be part of the scene, to hang around and display off their rides. But for Kamikaze, big Chief Dave Comto, and the relaxation of their crew. Racing wasn't simply something to do. It becomes serious, that dedication, confirmed within the way Kamikaze drove. If he had to muscle the car down the street, to win, this is exactly what he did. He wasn't reckless. He was calculated. However he driven, tougher than most, all constantly driving that fine line among manipulate and chaos. It is where the nickname Kamikaze got here from. He had a way of creating even the wildest situations look handy to him, using changed into pure instinct while some humans wanted a drink to unwind or distractions to get away. Kamikaze found his PC at full throttle, inches from disaster. It really is wherein he thrived. The rush, the edge, the natural adrenaline of knowing he turned into pushing both himself and his vehicle to the absolute limit that became what made him sense alive. And it wasn't long before that attitude were given him, noticed, whilst he joined Big Chief Avenue Outlaws in its 1-3 season, who brought that raw, no-holds-barred energy to the display the show helped take drag racing mainstream. And Kamikaze, Chris became one of the maximum mentioned racers in the country, and with that, he became the proud owner of what may just be the maximum famous El Camino inside the sport. Now earlier than Chris got his hands on the El Camino, the car belonged to his adolescence. Pal Tyler Flip Pretty, every person known as it was a Frankenstein construct pieced collectively with all the leftover components from their pals, motors on every occasion they upgraded, but that failed to stop it from creating a name for itself. When Flip rolled up in the first season of Avenue Outlaws, that automobile had anyone talking, it changed into loud, obnoxious, and instantly up ridiculous. The one zoomy headers shot nitrous fireballs proper out of the fenders, and the rumors approximately the way it became held collectively simplest, introduced to the legend human beings, swore it changed into patched up with silicone JB Weld duct tape and sufficient Bondo to fill a swimming pool. And whilst Flip pulled up to gather his winnings, that made Thelos sting only a little bit extra. There might have been a large number, but it become fast. While Turn handed away his longtime buddy, Justin Big, Chief Shearer, knew there has been handiest one person who have to have the car. Chris, no second guessing, no hesitation. The car have been sitting under a tar for over a year, gathering dirt, expecting the right fingers to carry it. Return to existence, and whilst Chris sooner or later turned the important thing. The engine didn't just begin, it roared as if it had been awaiting him all along. But an automobile like that wasn't just going to come out of retirement quietly on its first real pressure. One of the rear brakes locked up and caught fireplace, and that became just the begin. Before long, Chris had damaged it so badly that it wanted a complete rebuild. That is when he struck a deal to drop in our chum already constructed 582 engine. He wasn't satisfied about it. Chris had continually built his own engines, taking a person else's work felt wrong. Turns out his instincts had been right, that 582 turned right into a nightmare. 13 rebuilds in a single season. It was like strolling a funny vehicle group race rebuild, blow it up, rebuild over and over it, become enough to interrupt anybody. But whilst you're chasing velocity, it truly is just part of the sport. Chris had had sufficient of the headaches. It become time to transport ahead forward. So he made the name digging into his financial savings. He teamed up with Graham Jones at Fast Times Motorworks to build some things severe. An all-aluminum 632 with 4 tiers of nitrous on top of that. He and his buddy Les tackled a returned 1-2 chassis conversion proper within the storage. The intention, simple, get returned on OKC's Pinnacle 10 listing by way of the summer of 2017. He became lower back within the mix, winning races and making his presence known. However, deep down some things Till wasn't proper. The car wasn't going for walks the manner he truly wanted, and settling become in no way and choice. Beneath the hood, the drivetrain turned into a mixture of sparkling and pro parts, all prepare for one activity: going speedy. Conquer Racing engines out in Arizona treated the engine construct counting on Wisco for the rotating assembly and Crower and P.C. For the valve train, they converted to digital gasoline injection using parts from gas injector improvement with a Haltech EFI device referred to as falling the pictures that equal Haltech setup also controlled the El Camino's 6-stage nitrous machine. Because why prevent at 4 all that power-supposed traction turned into a regular warfare? If the automobile was an installation, right, it become just wasted horsepower, the inventory, the front give-up layout changed into preserving it, again. So Autofab. Race Motors in Maryland built anew. Chromal tube the front give-up. And Chris and Les handled the installation proper. In the garage while they have been at it, they yanked the radiator to shave a few weight. Rather than conventional cooling the engine, now ran on ice water pumped from a tank in the returned. The suspension was tuned to perfection with QA1 adjustable coilovers and P.C. springs in any respect 4 corners, making sure a stability of manage and aggression power flowed through. A power glide transmission directly to a Moser 9. In rear stop all while retaining the authentic 4-link setup intact. But regardless of the modern upgrades, the automobile hadn't lost its G-body soul, still a little unpredictable, a bit wild, simply the way Chris preferred it for all of the upgrades, although there had been some things that simply could not be modified, the El Camino stock. Only a weekend escape, it's a way of life, each bolt, every dent, each late night inside. The garage tells a tale of sacrifice. That vehicle isn't always only a device, it is built from busted knuckles, sleepless nights, and each spare greenback he could discover. Occasion, even the ones he could not via day. He runs a small heating and air conditioning business by using nighttime long, after the world has long gone to sleep. He's inside the storage cleansing, the Lexan windows, checking spark plugs dialing within, the tires double-checking the brakes. He would not have the posh of throwing money at problems, so he makes sure nothing is left to danger. Guys like him operating elegance, self-funded going for walks, a automobile, built in a domestic storage, are not supposed to head wheel to he with the huge names, but he does extra than once the fee of racing has pushed him to the edge. He's been dead broke whilst competing on this very show. However, that underdog label this is, no, not a gimmick, that is simply fact. He's going to inform you himself. He is cussed. He is proud. And that is exactly what it takes to build, race, and win with an El Camino path. He would not do it by myself. At the back of each extremely good racer is a team and guide from agencies like Haltech, Speedmaster, and Wolf Aircraft Products enables maintain him inside the combat. But at its bad, this automobile is proof of what ardor, pleasure, and relentless determination can obtain, while cash by myself isn't always sufficient. And if you suppose this sort of racing is out of reach, Chris could inform you otherwise. Absolutely everyone inclined to sacrifice their time, cash, and heart should construct a vehicle like his, but right. Here's the difference. Maximum humans hesitate earlier than diving into something. This extreme Chris by no means did for him. It's all or nothing, continually has been. He spent years looking to face up to that a part of himself, but now he's embraced it. There may be no halfway. He will both make it large, or crash and burn attempting. And if you understand something about racing, you know it is exactly the mindset it takes to win. But little did he recognize that the same vehicle that introduced him so much fulfillment turned into about to guide him directly into catastrophe. You notice road racing has by no means been the most secure or easiest pursuit. But for folks that live for speed, it stays one of the maximum exhilarating fanatics of street outlaws, and its spin-offs understand the rush, the raw strength of high overall performance machines, the tension at the starting line, and the split-second selections that can suggest the distinction among Victorian disaster crashes are an unavoidable a part of the game, irrespective of how regularly they show up. It is constantly surprising how fast a finely tuned race automobile can move from peak performance to a twisted smash few. Understand this better than Chris Kamikaze and his legendary 1981 Chevy El Camino back in July 2020. Even as filming Street Outlaws, Kamikaze Chris located out the hard way simply how unforgiving avenue racing can be. It wasn't just a minor scrape or a dented bumper. His El Camino changed into carried out the frame, chassis, engine, turbochargers, almost everything become a total loss. Only a handful of parts, like the parachute lever shifter and rear housing, were salvageable. Chris later shared the tale on his YouTube channel Kamikaze Lifestyles that day. The Elco changed into already acting up. Its pressure shaft sensor, changed into giving him trouble. He wasn't feeling awesome, approximately racing, but while some other driving force threw out a task, he just couldn't say, no one race. Later, and his cherished El Camino turned into nothing but twisted metal. Losing that vehicle wasn't pretty much money, or the endless hours she'd spent constructing it that Elko changed into his vehicle, the one he loved the most. The only he had records with seeing it destroyed turned into an emotional gut punch. The cease of an era. However, if there is one aspect approximately, Kamikaze Chris, it is that he wasn't back down. This crash wasn't the end of his racing career. It became just another check, and like any actual racer, he turned into geared up to face it head on for his large comeback. He determined to do something. Wild, setting up a set of wrecked elements from the El Camino on eBay now. Not simply any elements, either. Those were the Weld racing wheel, Mickey Thompson tire, and TBM brake rotor that got ripped off the passenger side while the car flew off the road, right in front of Discovery Channel's cameras. And to make it even better, he signed them. The public sale exploded in popularity with 8 days. Closing the bid matter soared past 100, accomplishing an astounding $10, 600. However, then Chris raised the stakes. If the public sale hit $25,000, he vowed to, in my opinion, cook dinner and serve the winner, a steak dinner, stay on Facebook, at the same time as carrying his race suit. The bold pass electrified fans, and they eagerly embraced the assignment. Commonly wrecked automobile parts wouldn't be really worth a whole lot. But these were not just any. Chris salvaged the transmission engine and drivetrain, meticulously rebuilding each factor. Earlier than transplanting them into the Corvette, the Elko may additionally have been lost to the flames, but way to Chris, its spirit never truly died. Kamikaze Chris additionally took his TV fame and ran with it, launching Kamikaze Motorsports, an online save full of merch and die-cast fashions of his iconic El Camino. And if that wasn't sufficient, he's also got this YouTube channel, Kamikaze Existence, in which he is taking fanatics alongside for wild road adventures and glimpses into his regular life. It has been growing speedy, racking up over 70,000 subscribers since kicking off in 2020. However, in spite of all these aspect ventures, racing continues to be at the coronary heart of everything he does. It's why fans have been caught off protect whilst he appeared to disappear from Street Outlaws. No large rationalization, no farewell. Just long-paced, violently rumors started flying. Had he been fired? Did he quit? Was he accomplished with racing? Chris, in the end, broke his silence on Facebook ebook in July 2023, letting fanatics understand he would not be within the 6th season of No Prep Kings. However, he stopped short of explaining his absence, leaving lovers with extra questions than answers in preference to settling the speculation. His silence best intensified, it sparking even more theories about his departure. But notwithstanding all of the speculation, one thing remains: Kamikaze Chris has never stepped away from the racing global he maintains to dominate the streets of Oklahoma and compete in no prep events throughout Theus of A. In recent times, his cognizance is on his C5 Corvette, a system that proves he has no goal of slowing down via every twist and turn. Kamikaze Chris remains an impressive force, pushing forward with unwavering dedication. Enthusiasts have witnessed his highs and lows, but one component remains regular: his refusal to go into reverse from a project, whether or not on display or off his adventure, is some distance from over, with lots of road nonetheless in advance.